10 predictions for the UK election results. Number 10. UKIP votes will go Conservative. So with the Brexit vote now over, there's a good chance that the vote share for UKIP will be much less in this election. I'm not saying it will be nothing, because I still feel there's a portion of Britain that believes UKIP's stance on immigration and terrorism is more relevant than the main parties. But since the Brexit vote, the Conservatives have taken the same rhetoric as UKIP, and UKIP has chosen not to contest many seats where the MPs supported Brexit. So I think the vote share that went towards UKIP in 2015 will go towards the Conservatives this time around. Number 9. Terrorism won't do anything. So you might think that with the Manchester attacks, the Westminster attack, and the London Bridge attack, that terrorism will make everyone even more anti-immigration and pro-police powers, etc. But the attacks on France before the French election and the attack on Joe Cox before Brexit didn't have the same impact. Voters don't seem to care if their vote will cause more or less similar incidents, and instead vote because of other reasons. Number 8. Scotland will still hold another independence referendum. So I'm predicting the SNP to still have a majority in Scotland, even if they lose some seats. In 2015, neither the Conservatives nor Labour had a big enough vote share for them to look likely to overtake the SNP this time around. Secondly, Theresa May has had a terrible campaign, which won't help towards Scotland's view that England is conservative and Scotland is nothing to do with the dementia-taxing Tory England. Labour have also failed to get over that image of Jeremy Corbyn being a divisive rather than a unifying leader. Other politicians and parties are seen mainly as politically pointless for many reasons. Once the SNP gain most seats in Scotland, they will still push for independence, though it will be harder. Number 7. The Liberal Democrats will gain. In areas that had a strong vote to remain part of the European Union, I'm predicting the Liberal Democrats to gain some of the vote share. Furthermore, with Labour not seen as strong and opposition to Scottish independence, the SNP vote and Labour vote could go towards the Liberal Democrats in Scotland. Polling shows that this election has become a binary decision between the two main parties, Labour and Conservatives, with third parties losing out in the polls. So I could be wrong, but I'm predicting this situation, particularly in Scotland, where the Lib Dems had a big vote share in 2015. Number 6. Labour optimism won't last. So with the polls narrowing and Theresa May doing so badly, you might think, if you're a Labour supporter, that they might just be on course to win. Sadly, the numbers simply don't add up. If you take some UKIP vote and give it to the Conservatives, take away Scotland to mainly the SNP, and put the Conservatives where they currently are in the polls, then it only leaves Labour with their inner city strongholds. Jeremy Corbyn has not been good at converting Conservative votes into Labour votes. Instead, his gain in the polls has come from third-party votes. That being said, it still heavily relies on the younger voter turning out. So if young voters do turn out, Labour could just win a hung parliament. 5. Young voters will turn out, but not enough. So with the Labour vote, the anti-Brexit vote and the Scottish independent vote relying heavily on young voters turning out, chances are there will be an increase in young voters in this election. But let's not forget Brenda's words at the start of this election campaign. This vote represents a choice of rhetoric rather than substance, and a serious lack of talent from all the party leaders. For that reason, I think it will put younger voters off. Number 4. The Prime Minister won't last a term. Firstly, whoever the Prime Minister is, they have to get a good Brexit deal. This means lowering immigration, ending European bureaucracy, and getting a good trade deal. But I think Europe is going to offer the opposite, or a trade-off of one or the other, at which point the choice will be between the opposite of the things I just mentioned, or no deal. So an effective no Brexit or no deal. With this comes economic uncertainty, civil unrest, and ministers will lose confidence in the Prime Minister. Let's hope it's a fantastic deal. Number 3. the party leaders won't last. If the election campaign is anything to go by, it's obvious the party leaders won't last. Firstly, the losing parties will want to change their leaders. Jeremy Corbyn might insistently stay. Theresa May, I think, would go along with the other parties. Secondly, even if the results could be interpreted as success, let's not forget Labour's feud with Jeremy Corbyn last year. Then, if Theresa May gets anything other than a larger majority, she will be seen as a loser. Even if she stays, there's a chance of more U-turns like we saw in the election campaign and the election decision itself, plus the Brexit deal conundrum I mentioned before. The smaller parties, I think, have more to lose from party infighting, so more likely will stick to their leaders. Number 2. There will be more terrorist attacks on the UK. I had to make this point, and I hope I'm wrong, but I believe there will be more terrorist attacks on the UK after the election. This will put pressure on governments to come up with and review all terrorist-related policy. I don't know how the current threats of terrorism will resolve itself, but all I expect is for it to continue. Likely, the threats will be low-tech, inner-city stabbings, vehicle terrorism, and the occasional bomb or gun threat. People will be angry at a Labour government for being too community-sensitive in their approach, while people will be angry at a Conservative government because of the cuts to policing. Crime policy is likely to slide back and forth between left and right for a while. I've always wondered what would happen if the frequency of attacks was every week or every third day. We'd probably have soldiers on the streets, closed borders, and perhaps even our allies would intervene. At that point, the country and the world would have to be at war with Islam. Let's hope that never happens. Number 1. Our relationship with America is critical. So America is our closest ally and a good chance for a trade deal after Brexit. But as we know, President Trump is not so popular over here. With increases in terrorism, a bad Brexit deal or no deal, and our economy wavering, we might be begging for some support. And I haven't even gotten into the Trident debate in North Korea yet. Some have suggested the UK could eventually become another state of the US. But whoa there. I might be getting a little too carried away and pessimistic with my predictions. All that matters is the future PM has a good relationship with America. And I think we will, because we need them, even if the left-wing Jeremy Corbyn becomes PM and they leak even more terrorist intelligence. So I think Theresa May is likely to become PM and the future of the country will change. But do you agree with me? Let me know your opinion in the debate below.